Would you be the jerk for not cooking Thanksgiving dinner and just spending the day at the beach instead? We'll get into that in a bit, but first, am I the jerk for sending my future sister-in-law to my future mother-in-law's place after she refused to pay for the wedding cake samples she and her friends ate? I, 27-year-old female, and my fiancé Leo, 27-year-old male, decided to let my future sister-in-law Maya, 32-year-old female, stay at our house because she needed space from her husband due to some relationship struggles they're having. Leo and I had gotten wedding cake samples from an expensive bakery specializing in wedding cakes. We planned to test them along with Maya after we finished up some other wedding plans yesterday. However, when I came home from work to see Leo yelling at Maya, the box the samples came in wide open on the living room table and Maya arguing with him. I asked what was happening, and Leo angrily told me that while we were both at work, Maya had some friends over and they ended up eating almost all of our cake samples. I was shocked and asked Maya why the heck she would do something like that. Maya said that she needed a pick-me-up from what she was going through with her husband and invited her friends over to comfort her, which turned into them eating the cake samples after one of her friends noticed the box on our kitchen counter. My shock turned into anger, and Maya tried to defend herself by saying it was just cake. I told her if it was just cake, then she should have no problem replacing it. Maya refused because the price was way too expensive for something tasting crappy anyways. Leo backed me up on having Maya pay to replace it, and we argued until I said that if Maya can't cough up the money, then she'll just stay at my future mother-in-law's house because there was no way I was having someone so disrespectful in my house. Maya thought I was bluffing until Leo repeated my sentiment and went to go pack her things in a huff. When she came back out, I handed her some cash for gas and told her to get the heck out. Presumably after Maya got to her mom's house, my future mother-in-law called me to scold me about kicking Maya out, and that I was cruel to do that to her in her time of need. Also, my future mother-in-law was also irritated that I sent Maya her way since she had led Maya into the liquor cabinet and ended up drinking some expensive whiskey that belonged to my future father-in-law, so now they're arguing about that. I don't blame OP, and it seems like it's a recurring theme wherever she goes. If they're going to be a tornado no matter where they go, you're more than fair to at least say this tornado is not your responsibility and guide them out the door. Also, hi, I'm Steven, and if you guys enjoy getting to decide whether or not all of these people are jerks, why not hit those like and subscribe buttons down below? That said, our next story is, am I the jerk for not letting my daughter go over to my sister-in-law's house after her kids dumped my daughter's bindi bag? I, 40-year-old female, am South Asian, and my husband Luke, 42-year-old male, and the rest of his family are white. We have a beautiful daughter, Amara, 14-year-old female, who has decided to start wearing bindis in day-to-day life 2 months ago. Before anyone asks, no, I didn't pressure her into this decision. This was all on her own, and I don't even wear bindis daily. I helped her buy a bindi bag, and Amara had carried it around with her whenever she'd be gone from home for more than a day ever since. Last weekend, I let Amara go to my sister-in-law Bree's, 45-year-old female's, house. Bree has 2 kids, Danielle, 15-year-old female, and Chase, 13-year-old male. Saturday afternoon, Amara called me crying and told me that Danielle and Chase had been teasing her about the dots on her forehead since Friday. That morning, Danielle and Chase had grabbed the bag out of her room and dumped it into the pool as a prank. It sank to the bottom, and since Amara can't swim, she wasn't able to grab it. Amara went to Bree and told her what happened, and Bree took Danielle and Chase's side, saying it was kids being kids and that they did Amara a favor with that prank. I comforted my daughter over the phone and went to go pick her up soon after Amara said that she didn't want to be at Bree's house anymore. Once I got there, I helped Amara put her bag into the trunk before going to Bree to confirm the story. Bree confirmed it and doubled down on what she said hard. I was irritated at that and soon left with Amara. When we got home, I told Luke what happened, and he suggested not having Amara go over to Bree's house until Bree apologizes for saying that the kids did Amara a favor by throwing her bindi bag into the pool, and the kids apologized for the incident itself. I agreed with that being a good idea, but checked to make sure Amara was okay with it first. Amara said that she doesn't even want to see her cousins or aunt now anyways. So I sent Bree a text explaining that Amara wouldn't be coming over until they all apologize. I didn't get a response at first, but when I did, Bree was telling me that that was unfair and that I was punishing her and her kids over a dumb prank. I just replied that I just want an apology for my daughter, and that should be a simple request. Bree didn't reply back, but my mother-in-law ended up calling me and telling me that I was horrible for not letting Bree see her niece, and that both Amara and I needed to get over the incident. When I explained Amara doesn't want to be around Bree or her kids either. Luke is on my side with this, but my mother-in-law won't stop texting about how I need to just let this go and let bygones be bygones. OP's definitely not the jerk, and honestly I think what they're offering may not even be something that Amara's fully embraced with. These people just went completely against what Amara was all about. I wouldn't consider it any kind of prank, it was just kind of outright cruel. It's like the mother-in-law is trying to cast a charm on you when they say let bygones be bygones, but you remove the veil and it's really let bigots be bigots. Our next story is, am I the jerk for enforcing a no kids talk rule and not offering to plan a baby shower? Really, are we the jerks? Our friend group, female 30s, gets together about once a month. A few years ago, certain group members began trying to conceive. One of the first ones to start trying was Katie. Unfortunately, Katie and her husband had difficulty conceiving. This was understandably very difficult for them. Once other members of the group started having kids, Katie asked us to not talk about kids at our monthly get-togethers because it was difficult for her to hear. She also made it clear that she would not attend any baby showers. The rest of our group had mixed feelings about this. We understood that Katie was very upset about her difficulties conceiving, but it was disappointing to not be able to share important parts of our lives. We generally go around and everyone talks about what's new in their lives, work, promotions, hobbies, etc. But whenever one of us was on maternity leave, we could basically only say, everything is good, because we couldn't talk about the main thing happening in our life. That said, now that our kids are older and we're all back to work or have time for hobbies, we've started to enjoy having a dedicated time for no kids talk. It is something that we've even come to look forward to. Fast forward to now, and Katie and her husband are pregnant, which is very exciting. She is nearing her due date and planning to take at least a year off to stay home with the baby. That's enough background, so now to the point. Last night, me and two other members of our group got a text from Katie's husband saying that she is really upset that we barely ask her about her pregnancy when we see her, and that no one has offered to throw her a baby shower. At first, we were surprised to hear this. We do text Katie at least weekly to check in on her. We just don't talk about it at our monthly hangouts. She's been talking about it in her updates, but no one's asked any follow-up questions about the pregnancy, and we more focus on her other updates. We talked to the rest of the group except for Katie, and the general vibe is that we want to keep the no kid talk rule in place. And it feels a little rude that Katie expects us to when she's the one who made the rule in the first place. Would we be the jerk if we kept our traditions? We also don't feel like we have the time to plan a shower with the holidays happening. It sounds like no one wants to go through the stress of planning a shower when Katie didn't even go to theirs. I think the shower half of it is complicated. I don't think anybody's just obligated to plan it and throw it for her. But like if she did have one, nobody wanting to go because she had her own issues that caused her to not want to go to other people's is a little conflicting. But the rule alone of no kid talk in the group that seems to have really been clicking for the group, I understand wanting to keep that just because the group transformed to that. That is like an intrinsic part of that group. Katie can't just bend the entire group's rules around her constantly. I'd like to know if you guys think OP is the jerk or not. Our next story is, am I the jerk for telling my mom I won't help her around the house because that's a woman's job? Before you get mad from the title, there's context. So, I'm 28-year-old male, engaged to be married to my high school sweetheart. Due to some financial insecurities we used to face, we moved back with my parents for a little while until we were able to afford to rent an apartment. I've lived with my parents in the past, of course, then moved out with my fiancé for 2 years. Now we've moved in with my parents for a while until the house we want to rent is available, which will be in 2 months. For context, I have a married older sister who's in the brink of divorce with her husband because he's doing nothing around the house. He simply comes back from work and sits and plays until he goes to bed, while my sister does all of the housework on top of her full-time nursing job. My mom believes my sister is unreasonable for her demands towards her husband and believes it's a woman's job to do housework and cater to her husband even if she works a job. Also, when I lived with my fiance alone, she'd always badmouth my fiance for forcing me to help around the house and always said how as a woman, she's not taking proper care of me. Her soon-to-be husband, because I also cooked, cleaned, did chores, etc. Even now that we live in my parents' house, when we need to do laundry, etc., I don't expect my fiance to be the one to do it. I do it myself many times as well. My mom doesn't like that and claims how my fiance has me as a maid. Now, despite all that, my mom demands that I help her around the house when it's housework she wants to do. And I do. I always do my part since I live here, but for her it's never enough, and I'm a lazy son who doesn't care about helping his mother. After all the ridiculous stuff she said about my fiance and my sister's traditional roles, I told her then, you know what? I'm not helping around. That's a woman's job, remember? So don't demand from me to help you with your chores, since it's a woman's job and I'm a man. Of course, I keep defending my sister and I keep contributing equally to my fiance and I's chores. I just refuse to contribute any helping hands to my mother, since she believes she's entitled to help, but my fiance and sister are supposed to be maids. My mom has badmouthed me to the entire family right now, and whenever someone visits, they scold me and call me a jerk basically for being lazy and not helping out my mom. Am I the jerk for giving my mom a taste of her own medicine? I think OP's not the jerk here because it's clear they don't actually believe that. It's just they're going against this double standard treatment they're getting from their mom where, I guess, as their kid, OP doesn't get treated as a man from their mom, but also is a man in her eyes in regards to OP's fiance. It's just weird, really outdated beliefs, and I completely understand where OP's coming from. Our next story is, am I the jerk for letting my girlfriend's daughter wear a skirt to a party? I, 36-year-old male, have been with my girlfriend, 34-year-old female, for just under a year. We're both single parents. My fiance passed away 5 years ago, but her ex-husband is still in the picture. Both our daughters go to the same school. Mine is 14 while hers is 15. We don't live together yet. I want to finish the work on my house before they move in. We both have slightly different parenting techniques. She's more focused on her daughter having good grades, making sure she can get into a good university, while my approach is more, do what you want with your life, I'll support you regardless. Last weekend, my daughter was supposed to go to a friend's 18th birthday party. They're not very close friends, but she got invited. I knew that the girl's parents and other relatives would be there, so I had no issue with letting her go. But last week, my daughter asked her friend if my girlfriend's daughter could come to the party. They've been pretty good friends ever since we started dating, and her friend agreed. So I arranged everything with my girlfriend so that her daughter would spend the weekend at my place instead of going to her dad's. When Saturday came, I picked up her daughter in the morning because my daughter wanted to go shopping with her before the party. Her daughter had brought a dress from home that she was supposed to wear. It was a full-length dress. In the evening, when the girls were getting ready, her daughter decided that she didn't want to wear that dress, but instead borrowed some of my daughter's stuff so they could wear matching outfits, a skirt and a crop top. I never had an issue with anything my daughter wears. I always thought teenagers should be able to express themselves, so I always just bought her whatever she liked. I dropped the girls off at the party at 10 p.m. and then picked them up just before 1 a.m. That's the time me and my girlfriend agreed on. Her daughter then spent the night at mine and I dropped her off back at my girlfriend's on Sunday afternoon. But Sunday evening, she called me after she saw photos on Instagram that her daughter posted. She was furious at me for letting her daughter dress the way mine did. She said I was supposed to make sure her daughter wore that dress she brought with her. So I explained the whole situation to her, but it just ended up in a huge fight between us. Since then, we only talked once as she's still very upset with me. I told her she was overreacting. I honestly don't know what to think of this whole thing. So, am I the jerk here? First of all, I don't think the girlfriend said that they had to explicitly only wear that dress. And at 15, I think it's fair to kind of let them dress a little bit more how they want to. Obviously, I think there's limits to that, but that's kind of to the extreme, and what they're wearing is not. If there was a dress code here, the girlfriend should have made sure that it was known. Our next story is, am I the jerk for telling my brother, you should be glad your son's reading instead of doing what you did when we were teens? My brother was in prison for 5 years for taking bribes in exchange for building permits. I took in my nephew, 18, and he's been with me ever since he was only 13. When he was 16, my nephew took interest in romance, so I bought him the Bridgerton novels. He's reread some of them several times over the past couple of years. Never told my brother about it though, since my brother was more interested in his sports activities, social life, if he's seeing anyone, etc. After my brother's release, we began having dinner together at my place. My nephew is delighted to be able to have dinner with his dad again, and to be fully able to hang out and do something as simple as watching TV together. Everything seemed to be going well, but then my brother saw the aforementioned books. He recognized them since my late sister-in-law used to read them. He frowned, and when my nephew went to the toilet, he asked me why I let my nephew read those girly books. He said, men shouldn't read them. So I said, why can't men read romance? Reading those and other books helped him get an IELTS overall band score of 8.0. That score and his literacy allowed him to get into one of the best law schools in our country. You should be proud of him. He still protested that there were many other better books for boys and men to read. So I said, at least he's reading instead of doing what you used to when we were teens. You should be glad about that. Now, I might be a jerk for this comment because while he did cause some problems for our parents when we were teens, he also grew out of it quickly. He used to be a good role model to my nephew, up until accepting the bribes and now the men shouldn't read romance thing. He really looked hurt at the reminder and said it was a cheap shot. I don't think there's anything wrong with him reading these novels, and I think OP's done a great job taking care of their nephew. I mean, the dad can either get over it and accept and embrace their son, or they just stand to alienate them for who they are. I think if anything, that should probably be the greater message expressed to them. Great, you have your opinion. Now can you accept your son for who they are? Or are you just going to be smarmy behind closed doors for the rest of your life? This next story is, am I the jerk for telling my stepsister's son the honest truth, which is not what she wanted me to tell him? When I, 26-year-old female, was 7, I lost my dad. My mom remarried when I was 9. My stepsister, 29-year-old female, was 12 at the time. We had very different experiences with the whole blending of the families. I didn't really want it to happen and wasn't exactly looking to make them my new dad and sister. They never really became that either, but I've accepted that they are family. With my stepsister, her mom chose not to be in her life, and she always longed for a family where she had a mom and maybe some siblings. It made us all living together uncomfortable with me and her wanting very different things, and her dad and my mom really unhappy with how I felt about us becoming a real family, as they would put it. We're all okay now, not so close, but no hate or animosity there anymore. At least it was hidden well until this. So my stepsister married when she was 20 and had her son then too. She lost her husband 2 years ago. Her son is now 9. My stepsister has met a man, a widower, and he has 2 kids under 3. They're trying to get to the point where they move in together, but her son is not really blending with them, which is how she said it. He's not unkind or rude, but he's not really making an effort, is how she views it. And he said that he doesn't want to be a part of the new family she wants. They decided to go away for the weekend together and see if that would be a good experience and whether it would help them bond. She said her son ignored when the 3-year-old wanted to hold his hand, and then he didn't want to sit with her partner, who was also looking at the stars on their first night there. He also didn't want to take photos with them all. So she decided I needed to talk to him as someone who also lost my dad. She said the adult me could give him a more mature insight into everything. I told her I would talk to him, but I would not read from a script. She told me to just be honest. I did talk to her son. I assured him that how he was feeling was okay, and that I'd felt the same way. I told him it was okay for his feelings to change, and I answered honestly that mine hadn't really. They had just softened, so I could like them as people, even if they weren't my dad and sister. He liked hearing that, and he said he really did believe that that would be how he'd feel, and I assured him it would be okay. He was honest with how he just didn't feel the way his mom wanted to, and I related with him with that. My stepsister did not like that, and a couple of days later, she was calling to curse me out and saying I didn't help her like I had said I would. She told me her son was more sure now that he didn't want to try and be a family with them, and she told me I was so selfish to ruin her life the way I'd ruined my mom's. I told her my concern was with her son and how he was doing. She told me to go freak myself. Am I the jerk? I think OP's definitely not the jerk. And in the long run, I fully believe that you're never going to have a great chance of success when you try to force a kid to accept somebody as their new parent or their new sibling, rather than just kind of letting it happen naturally with love, care, and no forced titles. Having these people enter their life and just being a caring, positive person for them would increase that chance tenfold rather than, this is your new daddy and sister. Our next story is, am I the jerk for not wanting to give my younger daughter's future wedding fund to my older daughter's house deposit? Me, male 59, and my wife, female 53, have two daughters, let's call them Rose, female 27, and Lily, female 24, who both earn roughly the same amount of money, quite a lot for their ages. Rose has a 2-year-old and husband who earns a fair bit less than her, and Lily has a boyfriend who earns a bit more than her. They both inherited a big chunk of money from my mother, enough for a 10 to 15% deposit on a house they could realistically buy. Rose has always lived beyond her means, and certainly her husband's. They've alluded to using some of their house savings when their daughter, Poppy, was born, despite my wife looking after Poppy full-time whilst my daughter worked. Her husband has recently confessed he hasn't saved a penny in almost 10 years they've been together. On the other hand, Lily and her boyfriend have almost doubled the original amount saved and never seem to have any issues with money, whilst we constantly seem to be helping out Rose. Both girls are looking at buying houses. Lily and her boyfriend have been approved for a lovely house with a 25% deposit. Rose also had an offer accepted, but as it turned out, due to commuting costs and childcare from moving away adding up to almost the cost of another mortgage, they'll only be able to get a mortgage for roughly half they thought, and only have 5%. Rose told Lily this and asked how on earth she'd been accepted on a bigger house as a younger couple. Lily was honest and told her how much she made as a couple, and how much they were putting down, and Rose broke down a little. She asked how much we'd given Lily, and we told her nothing extra. That night, my wife and I were talking, and she said she didn't realize how badly Rose was financially, and how well Lily is doing. We'd paid for Rose's wedding and planned to do so for Lily too, but so far she's insisted she doesn't want or need it. I want to keep the money so we can still offer it when the time comes, even if Lily still won't accept it. But my wife wants to give the money to Rose, as she says having a child makes it a lot harder for Rose, and she doesn't want the money to go to waste when our only grandchild doesn't have a home. I mean, if you think you can broach this topic as far as talking to Lily about it and ask them how they personally feel, I think you could probably approach it that way. You know, go to Lily and say, we have saved some money away for if you ever had a wedding and you wanted financial support. It's completely up to you. We wouldn't judge you either way, and that's why we're coming to you to ask you. We were thinking it might be helpful to go to Rose for this time of need and just see how they felt about it with no opinions, no hard feelings. I mean, just on what OP wrote though, I don't think they're the jerk. It's not money that was ever meant for Rose. And honestly, maybe it's for the best that Rose learns to try not to live outside their means regardless. Our next story is, am I the jerk for not cooking Thanksgiving dinner and spending the day at the beach instead? I, 27-year-old female, have solely been responsible for cooking Thanksgiving dinner for 20 plus people for the last 8 years. I do all the shopping, cooking, and setting up. Months before Thanksgiving, I start looking at grocery prices and tweaking recipes to fit dietary restrictions. Caribbean family, vegans and pescatarians, meat eaters. I also make enough for the college-aged kids to have leftovers. I usually make 3 turkeys, 2 party pans of mac and cheese, and a party pan of mashed potatoes, stuffing, green bean casserole, collard greens, yams, mini seafood quiches, stuffed mushrooms, rolls, and a salad from scratch. Plus all the desserts, apple pie, sweet potato pie, cheesecake, homemade ice cream, and breads also from scratch. I start making stocks and doughs Tuesday night. I bake my bread for stuffing and make my cheesecakes and pies Wednesday after work. Cook all day Thursday so we can sit down and start eating by 4 so my aunts who work the night shifts as nurses can enjoy. Every year, people invite unexpected guests and it becomes 30 plus. I would be okay with it if it were plus ones, but my mom invites her friends and their kids. My mom and aunt ask me to make additional turkeys and some sides for their units. I never feel appreciated for everything I do to make it special and accommodate everyone. This year, I'm separated from my husband and I really don't feel like bending over backwards cooking for people who don't even leave me leftovers to make a sandwich the next day. This year, I've decided not to cook and just spend my day at the beach, the only bonus to living in Florida. I was asked how much the adults should Zelle me for Thanksgiving groceries at the beginning of the month, and I told them I'm not cooking. Today I received a Zelle from my uncle, and when I returned it, he asked why. I reminded him in the family group chat I wasn't cooking. Now they want me to cancel my plans and cook. Am I the jerk for not wanting to? I don't blame OP for feeling unappreciated here, not wanting to cook this major extravaganza. I mean, I've heard a lot of people get tired of cooking for Thanksgiving, making a lot less than what OP makes. I mean, this is a week-long spectacle pretty much. I mean, you could give me all of the notes, all of the recipes, all of the exact ways how to do everything OP does, and it would still be the most daunting task to me to cook all of that. It's not OP's responsibility, and I understand why they would rather go to the beach. I'd like to rather see this get changed around to inviting people over to actually help make this stuff, not go all Lone Ranger on this. But overall, I don't think OP's the jerk. Our next story is, am I the jerk for laughing at my brother-in-law for when his son got a 0 on his project he did? So my child is 3 grades ahead of my sister's kid. I'm going to call the teacher Mrs. Cat. Now, personally, I don't really like her, but I do respect her. She is a very no-nonsense woman, and she'll make sure that you learn. She has the highest test scores for years. Very clear in her expectations with parents and that she won't put up with our crap. I'm a bit ashamed to admit that I sent her a whole list of questions about her class, and she literally sent back the PDF of her handbook that I already had and told me to read. Every question I had was answered in the first few pages. There are other stories about her, but really she's a no-nonsense teacher and she truly doesn't care about the parents' feelings. She taught my daughter extremely well. Now, there's a project where you make a model of some Native American group's home and read a small paper about it. Well, my brother-in-law did that whole project. Mrs. Cat made a quiz about the paper that was written and gave it to his son. Well, son failed it and admitted he didn't do it. I saw the email that was sent and in a very professional way ripped my brother-in-law a new one. His son got a 0 and is allowed to redo the project at school. He went in person and according to him got ripped a new one. He was complaining and was going to take it to the principal and I started laughing. I told him this was hilarious and I hope he learned his lesson. He's now ticked at me. I don't blame OP here. I think it's very important that your kid does the work for themselves. I completely understand helping the kid. I mean, doing it with them and being hands-on, I think that's great. Doing it for them? No. I can relate to the teacher though. One of the strictest teachers I ever had, she yelled at me on the first day because I didn't have paper out taking notes in front of the whole class, just stopped the lecture. Was a class I definitely got straight A's in. But at the same time, she was also the kind of person who would play around, toss bouncy balls around the classroom to kids. Do that thing where somebody's sleeping with their head down where they would just drop a book on a desk to shock them, fill a turkey baster with water and intimidate the kids that they're going to get splashed. Our next story is, am I the jerk for not fighting the school to allow my daughter to do cheerleading since the athletic trainer denied her? I am so tired and need an outside opinion. The school's athletic trainer, Beth, is a very strict woman. She started 2 years ago, and at the time I thought she was just being a bench and on a power trip. She was not. All she was asking for is basic respect. This became really apparent when the school had a meeting about her and went through every single incident with her. They used the camera footage for a lot of incidents. Parents know that office is recorded, and it showed the kids were awful and she was professional. The kids were awful and really ended up having a tantrum when she told them no. Many times the kids were calling her names and it really made me reevaluate my opinion on her. One example for reference, one kid needed to do a balance test and take off their shoes. She had a fit and refused to do so. The athletic trainer told her that was fine, but without it, they can't play. She took off her shoes and called her some lovely names, not to mention the parents getting on her butt for it. Now, my daughter is a sophomore, 15, and she needs to do a concussion test in the winter. If she doesn't, then she can't cheer. She knew about the whole thing and they had a practice for the thing. She gave everyone a time to be in her office. My daughter got a time and didn't go in at that time. She went in at the end of practice when she was packing up. Beth told her no, and I'm embarrassed to say it, but my daughter had a huge fit about it. Beth stood her ground on it and went home. Now she's on vacation, and my daughter cannot cheer until the concussion test is done. That will probably be done in December, so she's missing a ton of cheer events due to Thanksgiving Fest. My daughter was ticked and wants me to fight the school. I told her no since I saw how she acted. I asked for footage. That's what she gets for being inconsiderate to Beth. My wife wants to fight it, and both of them think I'm huge jerks. I think this is an open and shut book. I think OP's clearly not the jerk. The daughter was given a time and they didn't respect it. I don't know if they were just busy goofing around with their friends or what, but if you're given a schedule, an appointment, and you blow it, almost nobody's going to bend over backwards and see you when you come to them. This is just a straight up life lesson for her. But with that being said, that's all the time we have for today. Now, if you want to hear another crazy Am I the Jerk Here story, check out that video on the left. Or if you missed my latest video, check out that video on the right. That said, I'll see you all next time with some more stories.